Hello. Most of the time we use Git to manage our code versioning, and there are several operations or tasks we can perform while using Git. So in this video, I want to talk about the hooks that we can perform or include in our frameworks. As we discussed in test cases or test suites, we might have some hooks which are triggered before or after the module's executions. So even when we try to execute something, they are already executed before the test itself is uh, executed, or after the execution is complete, they are triggered to be executed in our environments. So similarly in Git, we can have different hooks before or after the some other steps are executed. So I want to a little bit talk about pre-commit because sometimes we might have some linting or styling or formatting issues regardless of all the other algorithm mistakes or errors. So even this one we can already realize before we are performing our commits. So we can include the pre-commit hook in our framework, which is invoked by the git commit command. So whenever we want to commit some new changes, then this is already triggered and we can already test some checks, perform some checks or tests. So let's see how we can do that. Of course, there are several ways to do that, but I want to go over a framework which helps us to orchestrate different tasks we can perform in our pre-commit, which is Husky framework. So as we can see here, it helps us to perform some commit messages or even performing some tests and linting the code. So actually let me show you how it looks like in my uh, project. So let me switch to my IDE, and of course there are they are managed in the package.json file. So here we can see lots of scripts, and let me show you how we can see the scripts that we can run. Of course, they can be with npm run. Let me a little bit zoom in, or npx commands. Cool. So if I run npm run, I can already see the list of scripts that I can run. They are declared in the package.json file, so I can already see the whole list in my file. And I can already see that the pre-commit is here. So we already see that in the GitHub documentation. It is invoked by the git commit command. So when I try to commit some changes, this script will be triggered or invoked. And what I want to do is I will try to utilize the Husky, and under the Husky folder I have here a pre-commit file which will execute some other npm operations, like in this case it will be running the lint staged, which is another script. I will show that in a minute, but first see the pre-commit file itself. Yes, as we can see inside this script, it is just running the lint staged. So yes, it is defined here. So when we check what lint stage is, we can see it is again running a script which is here a combination of different operations. For example, for different types of files, for TypeScript or the other compiled TypeScript files, we can execute these kind of checks like lint fix, lint playwright, or Prettier, and other TypeScript checks. And for JSON files and YAML files, we can execute some other checks. Of course, for each of them, there are different dependencies. For example, for JSON files, for YAML files, we will do these checks by or thanks to different dependencies. Let's see what we need for those. All these scripts, for example, whenever we wanna check the TypeScript files, we will be running lintfix, lintplaywright, Prettier. So all of these scripts are defined here: lintfix, lintplaywright. So and we can see the dependencies that we need. For example, I need the Eslint, I need the Prettier, JSON lint, YAML lint. They are already included as a dependency in my package file. So we can see all of them here: Eslint, Husky itself, JSON lint, YAML lint, Prettier. All of them are added as dependencies. So whenever I run this, of course, all of them will be executed one by one. And what else I can show? Like, especially we have two fundamental dependencies, right? One of them is the Eslint, and the other one is the Prettier. So they can be executed whenever we save some files or we make some changes on our files. So I already have, after I install these dependencies, I will have some config files. For example, for Eslint, I have just under root folder, which is here. So I can see what kind of configuration I want to apply on my source files. And similarly, I will have another one for the Prettier. So this is my formatting style. Like I want to have a tab width of 4 spaces, and I can use single quotes, and all the other configurations I can do here. So let's see how it works. And whenever I make some changes, actually I can select the operations which will be done after the save. So let me just open the settings in the IntelliJ, which is here, and it is already open here. So under the languages, I can see the JavaScript language here, and when I check the Prettier, I can see the Prettier dependency under my node modules, and I can check on save. By this means, it will be automatically executed after I make a change in my file. And let me see all the actions which will be performed on a save. And I can see, in addition to Prettier, Eslint fix is also executed. So actually, if I try to configure that, I can see that it is again under the languages and JavaScript, this time under the code quality tools. So I can go with the automatic Eslint configuration, or I can do a manual configuration here as well. And again, it is running after each save. For example, let me do a change in my test file here. For example, I have some dummy operations here, but let me just add something else. Like, let's add some prints here. And okay, I'll just go to a new line. And even I don't care about indenting as of now. And let's add another log. Okay, and let's put some empty lines, and let's do some assignments. Okay, now I will save the file after fixing this. Cool, and when I save, I can see all the empty lines are removed, leaving only one. And the semicolons are added at the end of the lines. And if lines were too long, they would be fixed according to my configuration, which I define by config files. And whenever I try to commit this change, the relevant script will be executed, which is npm pre-commit, right? So let's try npm run pre-commit. As we see, all the tests and the tasks are executed, which we define under these scripts in our package.json file. And since now it didn't find any error, it is just ready to be pushed to repository, but otherwise it would be failing, and I wouldn't be even able to push my code.